Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm actually pretty excited because right here we're starting the build on the electric go-kart, and I got some new parts, so it's kind of why I'm jumping into this build now. I tested a setup that I've seen work before and now trying to upgrade it because it didn't work the way I expected to. That's why there hasn't been videos on it. I'm going to go ahead and show you the parts and then install it and probably test it before I release a video about it, because I want it to work. That way I'm not embarrassed that it doesn't work. But I might post it anyway, like if anyone's thinking of doing it, so that they know that it's not going to work. It's going to be a full 48 volt conversion. So we have the 48 volt motor controller. We're going to use the stock switch and brakes. And then we're going to have 48 volts powering the controller from drill batteries. So hopefully it should be enough juice to give us the power we need to slide, even though I'm way over the weight limit on one of these things. So let me show you the parts that I have bought and that showed up yesterday. First part I bought, actually this came after all the motor and stuff, but I want to show you guys this first. This is 4-inch PVC that will slip over the tires in the back. And I know you're asking, why'd you buy PVC if it already has PVC tires? Well, I think the PVC on these tires is pretty grippy compared to the standard PVC that we normally drift with on the Predator go-kart and stuff. And these tires are expensive, so to be able to plastic weld the sleeves on top could offer a much cheaper alternative. And then I also have rubber tires, and I know they're only 1.5 inches wide, but they're the best thing I could find at this size. I think this is 5 inches diameter. And the reason for that is because I wanted to keep the clearance to max out the angle on the go-kart, because the frame almost limits how big of a tire you can run up front, and there's probably better options that are a little bit wider, just nothing I could find. So now we have this big box of parts. I mean, it's not that big. Basically this is all the motor and the controller that we ended up getting. It came with wrist throttle, mainly meant for like bikes or trikes, and then it has a really nice sheet for how to connect everything. So we're going to be using this pretty intuitively and hopefully getting it right off the rip. The problem I had with the other controller I bought, like third party, different from the motor and batteries and stuff, was the wiring was different than what other diagrams said, so I had to mix match wiring to eventually get it to work, and it didn't work that well. So hopefully the controller and the motor being 48 volt compatible, it produces a lot more power than the 24 motor with the 48 volt controller I had to produce enough power to spin the wheels. Problem with electric is it's a lot more torque than it is power, so harder to spin the tires because it doesn't have the power like a gas motor does. So that is just something we have to deal with and account for. Worst case is with enough speed it could drift around corners, but hopefully it's enough to kind of get some sort of wheel spin from a standstill. That way we know that there's like good instant power to keep in drift if we have to like e-brake or other dodgy situations where we're trying to extend a drift and have to cut power to get back into power. So just a lot of things to think about, and excited to test it and show you guys to see if it's a possible thing to work, because it would be really cool to have a go-kart you could take anywhere, because these little Razor go-karts are extremely small. Here we have our controller, which is way bigger than our stock controller. This is about double the size. As you can see, like size comparison to my head, it's about the size of my head. But this was a well-rated motor setup on Amazon, so I'll leave a link to that down below. And the wiring is just easy to follow. It should be pretty straightforward, and it was the highest RPM rating, which is always good because that means more top speed, more potential for drift. So here, my goodness, we have our motor. Now this thing is, again, double the size of an original motor. Original motor kind of cuts itself right about here, so maybe a third bigger for sure. Like I said, even though it came with a wrist throttle, we're going to be using the stock throttle because it fits the best on the handle. So we're going to be messing with all of this in the upcoming videos. Definitely going to finish it before I release the series. So just know that if it's released, it probably works in some sort of fashion. So day 2, working on the go-kart. Here you can see we have a clean slate to start on. I think we're going to start by test fitting the motor and then working everything else around it. The holes are too wide on the new motor to fit with the stock mounting holes, which is totally fine because if you look at the placement of where the sprocket is in the gear on the motor, it doesn't line up anyway. So you would have to scoot it back. Figured right there is probably the best placement, and then just shave back these tabs. The second thing with the motor is that the original sprocket will not work that it comes with. So this right here is actually the original sprocket it came with, and then this is the new sprocket I put on there. I originally bought for the original motor because it is the same chain as the original sprocket, but it has a couple more teeth to it than the original motor because my thought was to add more wheel speed. But I didn't end up using it for that because it was super underpowered and it ended up fitting this. So I'll go ahead and leave a link in the description for that. These are the batteries I have, 224 volt, 4 amp, extended run, lithium ion, cobalt batteries, run in a circuit, and I just have this taped together. It's jank, but they have fuses on them and on-off switches on the mounting plates, and they should do. So these are what we're going to be running. We're going to figure out where to mount those later. Okay, so here's where we're at for today. So basically I have 2 holes mounted for the motor. 5/16 is going to be your drill bit size for drilling these holes out. So yeah, this actually has enough clearance from the bracket to actually tap a hole right there, and there's enough right there. So I think I'm gonna just tap holes at some point, and there's enough clearance right here for the motor to clear the frame with the chain, which I have to get an extended one, so I'm gonna order that today. And then I think this setup, having the batteries somehow mounted right here and this off here, thinking of just zip tying the little holes here to like these struts right here on each side. It's not too far, so it would pretty much sit exactly where it's at right now. Just zip tied, and then figure out the wiring later, and should be good to test it out. I'll catch you guys when we continue later. Okay, so it's the next day, working on the go-kart, and so I've got it all jimmy rigged up. You want to connect these 3 wires to themselves, green to green, blue to blue, yellow to yellow. Then you have your hall sensor plug plug that in. Negative to negative, positive to positive on your battery system. Then you want to connect your throttle. So even though I have the throttle that came with the motor connected, just for testing purposes, then I'll switch it. I'll repin the connector it came with to the OEM throttle. So you're going to want to use these 3 wires, the black, red, and white, and then the rest don't matter, so I'm just going to leave it in plug so they don't short circuit themselves. A lot of people don't realize the electric lock, the VVC, to get the controller to actually work. So a lot of people connect everything besides that and think that the controller is dead. And they connect a different controller that doesn't have it and then it works. So connect your electric lock. Right now just have a paper clip just to, for the time being, and turn on the power. And the motor works. So all I'm going to do is repin it to utilize the stock control and then button some things up. So besides the chain, we're actually waiting on a 3-speed switch. While we're waiting for those parts, I'm going to go ahead and end the video here, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. The next video we're actually going to test drive it. And if it goes well, then I'll start posting the series, and I hope you guys are excited for the series and enjoy the series so far. There's a lot of cool little areas we're going to be drifting pretty soon if everything works out. Stay tuned, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.